Hi everyone, it's Rax bringing you my very first Wolcen guide. I'm going to teach you how to play the Bleeding Edge Ailment build, which is an incredible build. It can farm the highest level expedition effortlessly, as I'll show you here in just a moment. They have just fixed the shield node, which everyone was using, or a lot of people were using, to give you that gigantic multiplier. So all of those builds have gone bye-bye. So I just tried this build after the patch and it still works. So I'm happy to bring you the guide. So what I'll do is I'll go over all the skills and tell you all the runes that I take for all of them. I will quickly go over all of my gear. And then finally I'll walk you through my skill tree, and I'll have a link in the description that'll show you all the passive points that I've taken, but I'll go over the main aspects of what we're trying to grab, and then I'll show you some gameplay of us clearing the highest dungeon. Let's get started. Alright, let's start with the skills and with the main attack, Bleeding Edge. The idea of the build is, in our passive tree, we're going to take everything to apply as many ailments to monsters as quickly as possible, and then combined with this rune, increases damage per ailment stack, Bleeding Edge is going to murder everything. Okay, so besides the increases ailment damage per stack, we want the axe to follow us, and we want the axe to continue to spin after we throw it. And then for the final rune, you have two choices. You can either increase projectile speed, which is what I like because it procs my life on hit faster and it stacks the ailments a little bit faster. Or you could also take the increased area of effect to clear our larger radius in the room. I like the speed better, but either one of them is quite good. And now going over the other skills, they're all going to buff Bleeding Edge's damage. So Blood for Blood is going to give us an area of effect that's going to give us a rend damage bonus if we're not at full health. We're going to take the increased health regeneration. We're going to take the increased area of effect, reducing the movement speed of enemies. The area is going to follow us. Chance that the enemies are going to explode if they have less than 10% health. The increased resource generation. The increased chance to inflict ailments, that's what we're doing. And finally, the increased duration. For Warpath, this is going to put up a shield and charge forward. It's a great way to move around the map very quickly. We're going to take the increased movement speed, the inflicts the stun, the charge the skill to last longer. This is important so we can fly across the map. Grants the buff to all resistances while we're charging. Gives you rage, and you can't be interrupted by crowd control. The Wings of Ishmir is a jump or a leap. This is going to allow us to move around the map a little bit better and position ourselves in the fight where we want to be. We're going to take the increased flight speed, increased rage generation, the buff for each enemy hit, the chance to inflict ailments on enemies, very important, inflicts the stun, and creates a vortex that's going to pull enemies to you. It's going to help you kill them with Bleeding Edge. Sovereign Shout is going to give us an attack speed buff, and it's going to generate rage for us. We're going to take the weakness stacks, the stun chance, the increased duration of the buffs, the critical chance buff, and also the movement speed buff. And finally, Juggernaut. We're going to cast this to give us an absorption shield, and when enemies break through it, it's going to blow up for massive damage. We're going to take the damage absorption, the reduced damage from projectiles, the chance to inflict a stun, reduced rage cost, reduced cooldown, increased absorption, and grants immunity to crowd controls. This is great to use on bosses and elites. Now let me quickly go over the gear and show you the kind of things that you're looking for. The first thing to know is we can only deal material damage, so we're looking for as much material as we can possibly can. As you can see in the little categories at the top, material is physical, rend, and toxic. Elemental is fire, frost, and lightning, and occult is sacred, shadow, and aether. The fact that this two-hander has a gigantic damage range and it has a lot of its damage from material damage makes it an ideal weapon for me. I look for the offensive 1 sockets, and I socket them with flat physical damage, or it could be rend or toxic, whatever is material, to make it do increased damage. And the fact that it has critical hit damage on it is a big plus as well. So on the rest of the gear, we're looking for a bonus to material damage, flat material damage. We're looking for rage cost reduction. We're looking for increased rage generation, because the more rage that we have, the more bleeding edges we can cast around us that are just going to chop everything down. Okay, so just a quick overview of my gear. Material damage, material damage, material damage, material damage. That's what I look for. For the defensive stuff, I like health and I like all resist. For the defensive sockets, I usually go with defense 3 and just socket with 1,000 health. And in the support things, I go for support 2 for 20% rend damage, because bleeding edges damage converts the physical to rend. And you can see with all the health that I have and with the nodes that I've taken, I have 175,000 health. And you'll see in just a moment in the footage that the bleeding edge just murders everything around you. So it's very tanky and extremely powerful. And very quickly, let me mention how we're going to allocate our stat points. To be honest with you, I've tried a bunch of different things. I put it all into wisdom. I put it all into toughness. I put it all into ferocity. I went 50-50 toughness, ferocity. I've tried a bunch of things. This build does so much damage that I find the best is just to put most of it into toughness. That's what I'm doing. You can play around with it. I found 100% wisdom was the worst by far to inflict more ailments. That's not the way I would go. I'd either go 50-50 or all into toughness. That's what works for me. Now let me take you through the passive tree and show you the important nodes that we're going for to make this build work. At the beginning, we want to take the 4 rage cost reduction nodes so we can cast more bleeding edges. They're here, 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 and here. We will then move to the left and grab the wild card, which is going to give us a 60% chance to crit. From there, we will move down to Kabbalist to pick up Insidious Decay, where we will get more ailment stacks at the cost of dealing less damage that aren't dots. Immortal Offering is going to give us a damage boost when we kill enemies impacted by ailments, and that will always happen, so we'll always have that damage boost. Power of the First Men is going to give us a 50% chance to multiply the number of our ailment stacks by 2, but with its 2 subnodes, it's going to move that chance all the way up to 100. Then we will head to the left to pick up Grievous Afflictions, so we can now apply 2 ailments with hit instead of 1. From there, we will head down into Child of Fury and pick up Furious Appetite, which is going to generate rage for us instead of willpower. Our rage generation and our rage cost for Bleeding Edge is very important to us in this build. From there, we're going to head to the right and in the Exorcist tree pick up Branded Burst and its subnode. We're going to get 5 tenant points as long as we aren't hit. Each one of those points is going to give us damage reduction. So as long as we aren't hit or don't take too many hits in succession, we're going to essentially have incredible survivability. From there, we're going to move up and take Bestial Frenzy, which is going to give us 25% increased damage for every enemy within 4 meters. And from here, we're going to move to the left and take God Amongst Men. It's going to give us 50% increased material damage, but we can only deal material damage. You may want to hold off on picking up this node until you get more of your endgame set where you have almost everything at material, because I found when I took this early game and I didn't have all my gear allocated to material damage, it actually sometimes hurt me more than it helped me. Moving to the right, we're going to take Feast for the Crows for the 2% global life leech to stay alive. And finishing out the Warmonger tree, we are going to get 2 extra damage per every 100 unspent rage points. From here, we'll move down to Time Weaver Dire Juncture. We're going to take 1 damage from an enemy's attack and then take the rest of it 4 seconds later. The reason why that's advantageous is it gives us a chance to get our bleeding edges up in order to steal all of our life back. So as long as we don't get one-shotted, we will be fine. And it sets our health to 85%, but with this node, it'll only reduce it down to 90. From here, we're going to move up and we're going to take 25% increased damage to enemies with impaired movement. We do have some stuns with this build, so we will get a 25% damage buff. And finally, we're going to climb all the way up to Warlock to get the 200 max rage, and we're going to pick up the 2 subnodes for the 100 and the 100 extra rage as well. Starting back at the beginning, we're going to go over to the Assassin tree, And we're going to get 100% crit hit damage at the cost of reducing our other damage by 30%. Then we're going to head down and take the 25% increased damage when only one enemy is within 7 meters. This is very good for bosses, which is really the only troubling thing for this build. And then I like to go up into the assassin tree, and this is kind of a nice to have node where dodge can roll through enemies. Sometimes if you get stuck and you're out of rage, you can be in a very bad spot, but dodging can roll through enemies is good for not only getting out of that, but also just rolling through the map trying to get to the boss if you've spawned it. From here, we're moving up and to the right, and we're going to go to the scholar tree, and we're going to take the 60% status ailment chance score. Then we're going to make our way all the way up to the King Aegis node, and this is going to give us a block chance for any weapon and 6 added block chance. This is going to keep us alive. It's really saved me on multiple times fighting bosses. And then finally, we'll move to Sacred Oath, which will apply 2 weakness stacks on blocking, and the subnode will increase that to 3. Well, that's the entire passive tree, everyone. Let me take you into a clear now of the highest level dungeon to show you this build in action and show you how it works. Alright everyone, let's go through the hardest dungeon in the game, a 187. I'm going to put max modifiers on everything, and we'll see what we can do. And we'll also lure the Untainteds, because that will give us a chance to get some special loot at the end. And there's actually something incredible that drops that I put on after this run that I'll show you guys. So, in general, I try to pick stuff with underlings, because underlings can't kill me anyway. It's all about the bosses that can kill me, so anything for underlings, I almost always choose that. And let's get going. So I activate my buffs, I activate my blood for blood, activate my shout, and I just start throwing bleeding edges. You can see we're hitting for 2 million right off the bat, and the longer that we're in a fight, the more damage we'll do, because the more ailments we'll have stacked up. We've got 5 Yogi the Bears attacking me. It's no problem at all. And for some reason, my health is bugged or something. I don't know. This happens to me sometimes where it just sits at 100k, but eventually it'll start figuring out what's going on. And we're going to move forward there. So on my mini map in the top right, I see we've got an elite over there. So I'm going to prepare for battle, and let's go see what we can do. Really anything except for the big lightning guy. He's my least favorite. I don't know why. His stuff just hits so hard. Can usually handle quite easily. So just put 1,000,000 axes up and karate chopped. Sayonara. And that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, this build is pretty straightforward. You can see us using Warpath there to move much further down the map into the next fight. It actually saves a lot of time. Now, for some reason, those little, I don't know what you call them, that little spinny thing right there, you can't put ailments on them, so it's very hard to kill them. So I'm just going to skip it and move forward. So there we have the very, very dangerous, what are they called? Untainted. So I wanted to showcase something here. Usually I kill them. I kill them both every single time I do this. But you can actually just skip them. And by the way, those avoid guys that just explode, they don't do anything to me. They can hit me all they want, and I actually get hit by them on purpose a couple of times for the purposes of this video, and it does nothing to me. So when you see that guy, you can just skip him. If he's giving you any trouble, don't even have to kill him to get the highest rank S+ at the end. So here's the other one. He's attacking me. It did 0 damage to me. Broke his shield straight off the bat, and he's dead immediately. You can see how OP this build is. It wouldn't surprise me if the Wolcen developers nerf this at some point. I think even if it was nerfed, I guess depending upon how big of a nerf they decided to apply to it, I have a feeling that this build will still be quite good. So it's very tanky, has pretty good mobility, very good AoE, and the longer the fight goes, the more damage that you deal, so eventually you're just going to start one-shotting everything. So we've got another pack of Yogis. We've got them down already. Doesn't feel like we've been here too long, and we're already about 75% of the way through. Once the boss spawns, I usually don't spend much time clearing the trash. I just go straight for the boss to finish it, because that will give me the productivity buff. It'll give me all the items, and it uh, gives you less of a chance to die, because when you die, your rating goes down at the end. And I'm just assuming, I don't know this for a fact, but I assume the better rating is the chance for the better items, and it seems to work that way in practice as well. Well, we found 3 elites over here. Let's just dive on in and see what we can do. One thing that you can do to help out is just constantly be moving around a bit. You don't have to just stand in the middle and maximize your damage. It is good to, dodge an attack here or there just to make sure you don't get one-shotted. But as long as you don't take those quick hits in succession, as we talked about in our skill tree, and have the bleeding edges going for the life leech, it's pretty challenging to die unless some crazy mechanics come after you or some crazy one-shots. So we're just finishing up here. We've got everything down. The boss is up. One thing that I like to do when I go to the boss is I try to have my potions full, and I don't use any health potions. I mean, I don't need them. I would rather just get more rage to cast more bleeding edges, because my bleeding edges are going to give me all the survivability that I need. So you can see how good our life leech is and how good our survivability is, because we barely take any damage. And when we do take damage, we just heal right back up to full. Another thing that you can do that will help you with bosses is you can drag little monsters to the bosses and use your potions. As you kill the little monsters, it will give you your potions back to cast more bleeding edges, is another tactic that I like to use. The only problem with Warpath, as you saw there, I want to run straight to the boss. If there are little rocks in your way, or if you hit anything like that along the way, it's going to just interrupt you. So that's not fun. I see an elite. It's not the lightning guy. Not scared of him. Only scared of the lightning guy. I wonder, been chatting with my stream and with some other people, I wonder if the lightning guy may be nerfed. I wonder if his damage is way too high. As you can see, my stream is dropping some frames from the amount of monsters on the screen. I'm gonna have to look into that. On my screen, playing this, it was silky smooth, but for some reason, the stream wasn't liking to broadcast those fights with tons of monsters. Anyway, the boss spawn's so far away, so it's going to take us a bit to get over there. Just trying to walk my way over. And we're full on potions, we're full on rage. Now would be a very good time to jump in. And let's see how hard the boss is on the max level with maximum affixes. And my warpath didn't work at all. Sounds about right. And the boss is still like 10 rooms ahead. This is one of the most gigantic dungeons I've ever seen. Actually, a lot of the times when I get to the boss room, I don't have enough progression to even spawn him. But this time it was the opposite. I spawned it super early. So I'm very happy to see this little thing that's going to spawn a bunch of ads for me. I think that's going to help me. But pretty much just got to stay by the boss, move around a bit. Just don't let him one-shot you. When his shield is down, just karate chop him with as many spinning blades as you can get off. Got back up to full rage, and we just blast, blast, blast. Not too bad. And those extra ads spawning are really helping us. Probably didn't need to dodge this much. Probably just could have stood there and just DPS'd him down. I just really wanted the S+ ranking. Just wanted to make sure I didn't die at all. He jumps into my bleeding edge. You can be more aggressive than I am, especially with 175,000 health. I wait until he's broken, stand on top of him, and sayonara. I mean, there was really no danger ever in this. Was able to get everything down. Maybe could have taken out a couple points in toughness and went more into ferocity. Maybe I'll go back to trying 50-50 now that my gear is a little bit better. Clear everything up and let's see what we get. Look at my character, it's a little ghost. I'm sure that's working as intended. And I'm sorry about my webcam. It's blocking one of I got a legendary bow, and the legendary ring I got was absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it. Material damage. Fire damage is okay. I would have preferred if it was physical damage, 1900 maximum health, and crit hit damage, and material status ailment chance. That's one of the best items I've ever found. Well, anyway, I'll cut the video here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I stream Wolcen all the time. I'm going to stream it all the time until Diablo Season 20 comes out. The game does have a lot of bugs, but I'm really enjoying it, and I really enjoy this build. Probably after I finish maximizing this build, I'll switch to something else, and I'll make some more build guides in case this build gets nerfed. But checked it today after the patch. It's still good. It still destroys, so put this together and give it a try. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again.